Hello, my name is Mistress Danielle Blunt. I am a pro dom based largely out of New York City, though I'm sort of hiding in the woods at an undisclosed location currently and peeking back into New York and other cities when I have the time or desire. And I am here today with Goddess Alexandra Snow. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
I would love if you could introduce yourself really briefly.
Sure. So I am also a pro dom and a fetish producer. I am largely based in Columbus, Ohio, but I too travel a lot. I am not in an undisclosed location. I am currently in Columbus, Ohio, but I travel pretty voraciously, or at least I did pre-pandemic. And New York is one of my favorite places. So I am the headmistress and founder of the Wicked Collective. It's Midwest's only independent sex worker collective, and that's pretty much most of the things that I do from day to day, other than making smut and teaching sluts.
I love that. Is that what your business card says?
No, but it should. I should really write that down, right?
Making smut and teaching sluts. Well, we got it on the recording. Amazing. I love that. Yeah, and you make a lot of really beautiful content, and it's something that you've been doing before the pandemic as well. I feel like I've spoken a lot in this interview series that I've been doing with people who started transitioning to more online work. But I'd love if you could talk a little bit about like when you started making clips
Sure.
and like when you really started putting energy behind that.
So I am going on my uh 15th or 16th year as a pro dom. This is all Botox, just so you know. Um, and I have been making videos pretty much the majority of my career, I would say, but I guess we're looking at going on 10-ish years. I'd have to go back and check. I feel like the pandemic year has screwed up all of my math.
Time
Uh,
does not
I,
exist anymore.
yeah, I started out, as an in-person pro dom, and I remain. That's where my skill set is, and really where my heart lies. But I had first started filming for sites like Club Dom, and for like Irene Boss, who both at the time were people who would film with actual doms, not just models who would take on a dominant role. And I had my own website for a little while, and then I started dabbling in this idea of maybe when I didn't have people to film with, of talking to the camera instead of talking to an actual person, and it was honestly a little bit of an experiment. This was, again, going on 10 years ago, when Femdom POV didn't exist. In fact, it might have existed, but it wasn't even a genre that was around. And I again I had this dungeon, this Wicked Eden. I had girls that were working for me, and they weren't making the kind of money consistently with sessions. And I thought, we need to figure out how to get you guys so that you're making, kind of a similar amount from week to week. Let me just try this site called Clips for Sale. I'm just going to give it a shot. So I did. I made like a month's worth of content. I shot some shitty videos with my webcam, and I shot up into the top 50. And let me explain to you, like, I might have thought I was somebody at the time, in the way that all femdoms all think that we're somebody, but to the internet, I was definitely nobody. And I thought, when I like came to the top 50, I wasn't getting naked, I wasn't having sex with anybody, I wasn't beating anybody, I wasn't fucking anybody with a strap on. There was nothing to me that felt really interesting. I thought, surely they're gonna figure out that I'm not doing real porn, right? Like, this is not a real thing. Like, they're gonna be like, okay, so where's the beef, kind of thing. And it never did, for basically almost exclusively for the last, whatever, 9 going on 10 years. I've been in the top of most of these sites, mostly because I just got really lucky and doing filmed on POV. I went from taking making shitty videos with my webcam to um, being very dedicated to making beautiful work. I can't say that I have really peaked yet in that, mostly because I really didn't know what I was doing for a long time. And I surrounded myself with people recently, the last couple of years, who did know what they were doing, which is why my content went from looking pretty darn good to like looking amazing. It was not as much my brainchild as it was I started building a really cool team. So Yeah, and all during the pandemic, when of course, like you, I couldn't make content with anyone except for other ladies in the collective. I just focused on making whatever weird stuff I could come up with.
I love that. It's so interesting. I feel like one thing that we wanted to talk about was nudity and femdom porn, and I feel like we're kind of moving out of an era where you're paying a premium for someone who never got nude. I
Hmm.
feel like was like a high marketing point, like you would pay more because they were never nude, which is somehow like conflated with submission in many aspects, which I think is
Sure.
somewhat part of it. Um, but yeah, my background in clips is I sort of dabbled. My background is actually in videography and photography. So I was actually the videographer for a porn website for around 5 or 6 years, which was
You,
really
you
interesting.
can tell.
um, well, it's funny because I have like really nice cameras and gear and stuff like that, and I've just been shooting everything on my iPhone. I'm like very lazy, and they shoot 4K, so it's like it's
Depending on where you're propagating that content to you, sometimes that's all you
yeah.
need. Like it really depends what you're doing. I get yelled at whenever I shoot any content on a mobile device, because both of the ladies who are my production team are kind of like, listen, it's not to the standard that we're used to. So, like, don't make my life any harder when I'm trying to edit this stuff. And I'm like, I'm sorry,
I
I'm
love,
sorry.
I love that. You gotta have them there. Um, but yeah, so it's been interesting trying to combine like my skill set of being behind a camera and to be in front of it. And it definitely like the femdom POV is definitely an interesting niche. I had my ex-boyfriend actually filmed all of my earliest clips, which are probably when I started making clips more seriously around 5 years ago.
Okay.
But I like definitely still channel him when I'm humiliating the camera when I need to like conjure up someone to
Oh, that's
speak
really
to.
good.
Yeah, I one of my best-selling clip series was like an ex-boyfriend humiliation clip,
And you're like, I got this.
boyfriend current cuck. And, and I was like, that was real. That one did well because I was drawing on a deep well of emotion.
I bet you were. You're like,
Yeah.
like, wait, how long did this video go on? Oh, it's fine. I got a few more minutes. Let me just work this out.
It was so interesting to me that like other people resonated. I guess it's like often true. It's like whatever, like if you're really into something, someone else is into something too.
Of course, yeah. There's always a kink for everything, and the longer that you're into this, the more you're exposed to new one. You're like, okay. And someone will make a kink off of almost every even nuanced life experience. So if it's
Yeah.
a common enough one, or at least has some passion into it, I'm sure someone really really resonates with it.
Yeah. I was just like, oh, other people are getting off with breaking up on their breakups.
Yeah, yeah. I That's a really good idea, actually. I've been in that place where I like if you ever like rage masturbate, like you're just so angry that you need to like, you
Is
know,
there any other way?
yeah, we were calling it masturbate instead of masturbate. Like I'm just so
I love
mad, I just need
that.
to go masturbate. Uh, and I remember during parts of my breakup, which actually I will tell you is relates to my story into nudity and femdom was a breakup, and I've realized that should have been a video. Fuck, why didn't I make a video about that?
It's not too late. It's not too late.
You're right.
There's always time to eroticize your breakup.
To time like the present, right?
um, yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit about how that inspired some like move, or maybe we can talk a little bit about like, so for a long time on the internet, like DOMs or in sessions, DOMs wouldn't get nude, or there would be an upcharge for nudity, or
Or
I,
or
I
or sometimes it was so gauche that, like, no one who was a real dom would ever get naked because
yeah.
insert completely contrived answer here, right?
Mhm.
And the more that I've examined this from at least from like almost like a social experiment standpoint, the more that it's very much related to male fantasy, right?
Mhm.
It was almost because men had hypersexualized women, especially in porn, the backlash of that was hypersexualizing women who did not get naked and for whom were unobtainable and would not, give you any kind of sexual gratification. And that became, it was almost this like the Madonna archetype of femdom. You know what I mean? And I mean, I don't know, when I started as a pro dom, maybe it's a little different in New York City, but especially here when I would travel, it was real doms looked down on any dom who got naked
Yeah.
under any circumstances. Absolutely.
I felt that definitely right when I started. And I come from like an old guard leather upbringing where I trained as a submissive, earned my leathers, and then like right, you wouldn't take them off. You wouldn't take them off. And like I have my like mixed feelings about old guard type ways and old guard DS traditions, and I'll take whatever I want and just leave some of the rest where
Good
it
job.
belongs.
Proud of you.
Thank you. But it was very much, I feel like it was a little bit less from that and more so from my experience. I never worked in a house dungeon, but I would rent in some house dungeons, and the dom just wouldn't get naked. And it also, I feel like it was something that was asked less of because I think people were seeing less of it. There was like the expectation that if you were a dom, you weren't getting naked. I actually have a clip of me in like full nude, just in boots. That's like, do you still find me dominant? Like, do you have any questions about who's in charge? Which was very cathartic for me.
I bet it was.
And when I shot like my first porn scenes where there was like actual penetration, like full nude, me being penetrated, it was something that I thought a lot about, is like, what is the response of the dom community going to be? Because I didn't come out of like a femdom porn space or a space where I saw other people, my colleagues, doing that type of content. There was no response. It was all in my head, the ego. It was all
Sure.
in my head.
Well, but we've been so radically conditioned to be worried about that, right? And I experienced very much the same thing. It was like, what are my peers going to say? What is this going to say? Like, what's going to happen? And really, at the end of the day, it boiled down to A, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
B, do I feel good about this and empowered by it? C, who fucking cares, right? Like we were so caught up in this idea because the hierarchy started us early. You know what I mean? And I I kind I a little bit envy some of the people who have just come into sex work in like the last year because I don't think they got the same level of brainwashing that we did of being like doms do this, subs do this, switches do this, and these things are very like uneven and here like and you had to have this amount of experience in this and you had to be proficient in that thing and whatever. And really there was a lot less differentiation between any of these levels of the hierarchy than anyone really wanted to admit. I think.
Truly. And I feel like so much of it is, I I think it's interesting you talking about like the eroticization of the opposite of where porn, like mainstream porn, brought us. So like for like the clothed female, the Madonna type archetype. And I also think that it is like also like that hierarchy is also like kept alive by other sex workers perpetuating it or thinking like, well, I'm not a sex worker because I'm not being penetrated while like a fist is inside someone's ass. But I
Because
think
I'm not penetrating, I'm not being penetrated. I'm only penetrating someone else. It's better, right?
right.
It's
Or
not
that,
sex.
and then I think that also like keeps up this notion that penetration is something that's inherently submissive, which is something that I definitely don't feel in my personal in my sex life. And so that was sort of why I was interested in making porn like that, because I grew up like watching like kink.com porn and watching Madeline and Lorelai and Princess Donna. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't see anything particularly submissive about the way that they're having sex. And I wasn't seeing a lot of pro doms who make content also doing that. And so I was like, well, I actually have sex like this in my real life with my submissives and my personal submissives. And why don't I just film that. And it was really fun for me to be able to share that.
I loved it. Like some of your content was some of the earlier things that inspired me, and a lot of it felt very raw and authentic, which to me is is my primary kink. If I'm going to watch porn, if it looks
Yeah.
like the people involved in it are really involved in it and they really like what they're doing, I kind of don't care exactly what they're doing, but I'm into that.
Yeah, I'm the
So
same way. I'm like,
yeah,
is there a power dynamic and can I feel it? And are you into it?
yeah.
Yeah.
People are like, what are you really into? And I'm like, I got a control fetish. So wherever we have to like, however we're gonna slice that one, that's all I really need. Yeah. So I agree with you. I think there are a lot of really complex like a lot of complexities to what's happened inside like what we're calling fourth wave femdom.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that you hit on it was other sex workers who kept entrenching the hierarchy. This is a thing I've noticed over the last year, and it was especially been common in that, is that w- women have been taught to be competitive as a part of like our rise to equality sort of thing. Um, by nature of like we're taught that our inherent value is our appearance, our inherent value is our sexual availability or our sexual prowess, how we can make one partner feel good. And I think that has a bit translated in as from a work standpoint too, is that we're taught to be competitive with each other. So any way that we could kind of break down or be catty or attack someone else who was doing things that we felt were what made us superior, it was, I think, an easy leap for some of these girls. And I I don't know if it hurt about you, but it really hurt my heart because it was almost like they didn't see how much better it was on the other side of going, it's really, really, really impressive as a femdom. If you want to call yourself femdom, you want to call yourself anything else, is doing what feels good to you
Right.
what you and having things be pleasure centric for you, personal autonomy centric for you.
Yeah.
That felt so much better than letting some guy on the internet dictate my sexuality and what I was supposed to feel pleasure from.
Yes. 100%. And I feel like that was like a lot of what was behind like me beginning to explore femdom porn in that capacity was just like, why, like, this isn't how I actually feel. Like, I enjoy being naked. I enjoy using someone like a human dildo. Like, I'm just gonna shoot the kind of sex that I
Right.
like and like assume that it like plants whatever seeds in whoever's head is watching it, that they understand that those are things that I enjoy. But I think that there's also like some of it is about like for people who do both online and in person, it's like trying to create a boundary of like what is available in an online session or from what you're seeing in their porn versus what is available in an in-person session. And I feel
Sure.
like right, criminalization also plays a major role in the upkeeping of the hierarchy where we can't
Absolutely.
actually talk about what services that we offer if we're doing in-person work. And I feel like it just got deeply embedded into a lot of femdom content.
I feel like the fight for decriminalization now really does lead a pretty big charge, and you're right, is very much bonded with that, because that was another thing. It was like, oh well, we don't, it's a femdom not getting naked meant that things I was doing were more legal,
Right.
or et cetera, ad nauseum. I used to also have this kind of feeling of, oh, I don't want to do things in my videos that my clients would perceive as things that I wouldn't necessarily do. And then I started to really look at some of my videos and go,
Yes.
uh,
Would you do that in a real life?
80% of the fantasy things that I do in my videos aren't real life. Do they really think that I'm
My
going to kill them?
executionatrix
Yeah,
clip.
exactly. Like, do you think I'm going to kill you with a plastic bag? I mean, like, I'm all about doing breath play, but I'm probably not actually not going to kill you, because you know what? It's really inconvenient to dispose of a body, especially in a city. Okay, so I don't know. I think what we didn't want to do is we didn't want to confront our own internalized misogyny. I think that was really the overcoming that boundary. So if you like, I'll tell you the story about me starting to get naked on
I
camera.
would, I would love to hear that.
And by the way, and then I will tell you that I am starting to ramp up also shooting my own actual
Ooh,
femdom porn, and I'm so fucking excited about it.
that's so
Um,
exciting.
and actually, for years, I had plans to go and shoot with kink.com and do really extreme stuff, but under the agreement that none of it could be released until after I'd retired,
Mm.
so that the moment I retired, I would give the biggest fucking mind fuck to all of my fans. Being like,
That's
yeah,
famous.
do you want to see me get railed with 3 dicks? Watch this. I'm gonna give you the best bukkake scene. I really wanted to like premiere with a video that like with like jizz all over my face and looking up at the camera, be like, haha, bitch, how many times did you jerk off to me now? How do you feel about this? I don't know. It's actually going to happen. It's still on the back burner.
I
That's
love
beside the point. Anyway, all right. So it has become a little bit more commonplace knowledge, but I went through a really terrible divorce, and my ex and I owned a dungeon together, and I was very very young when we got together. My ex was 20 years my senior, and the classic story of like older guy, young girl, sex worker, is not one that unfortunately is that uncommon. And I went along with his his kind of story about the things we should and shouldn't do, right? And when we had gotten separated, one of the things that I felt really strongly about was like my own sexual. I was like, I didn't have my husband. I didn't. My ex-husband and I, thank God, didn't really have sex, and here I was, this high-powered, very well-known, was starting to rise into like my fandom pro dom who was orchestrating all these beautiful sexual fantasies for other people and having none of them for myself.
it.
And in fact, it was almost like I was prohibited from having sexual, pleasure. And so after we separated, I a went and became the biggest slut possible. It was great. I'm happy to do. I can't wait for the pandemic to be over so I can be a slut all over again.
Yes.
And like a moral, ethical slut. And what happened was that as I was getting ready to break out of him telling me you can't get naked, don't get naked, sort of thing, and my own like internalized feelings of it. And then we started to have he started to come after me for my own brand,
Mhm.
and it looked like he was going to try to come after me for the proceeds and try to take my brand from me. And at that point, I thought, as soon as I start showing my tits online, I'm gonna start making a lot more money. Am I willing to let him profit from my tits? No, it feels like him taking my autonomy away from me a second time. No, I won't have that happen. So we had planned for a while this kind of big reveal, and I had made a bit of a kind of a launch for it. I was going to do
A
a certain
launch.
kind of, yeah, a launch exactly. And in fact, the very first video that we shot was me, and it was 5 or 6 other women, and it was just me, and then all their like hands come in and they're just like
Amazing.
touching my breasts while I'm getting topless. And it's great because I think I sold the very first one for like $1,000 for the clip. And these are things that you just can do if you've built a brand that's
Right.
based on
Yeah.
these things. I don't think I could do it now, even, and this was only a year ago. Was it? No, 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 it's going on. No, it was a year and a half ago. Year and a half ago. And really what it was is I was just waiting for the divorce to have been finalized enough that I could keep the money I was making from my own tits. So now, actually, is it going on two? I guess it'll be 2 years in August. So yeah, it's been about a year and a half, and I love it. I love it. There's so many times that I have to like remember the branding that I've built with some of the things that I've done, to not just go, well, fuck, I just want to be naked. Sometimes sometimes you just want to be naked because like you feel good about your body that day and you just want to, or B, because clothes don't fit right, or C, because like
Latex is hard.
yeah, latex is hard, exactly, or like I don't know, like my bra doesn't fit right, my like nipples like popping out every time I'm trying to
Yeah.
do something, and I'm like, what, I could just take this off and it'd be so much easier, right? So I don't know. I think that I felt I was going to get a lot more backlash from
Yeah.
it. I thought other doms are going to be like, "Oh, you whore, you whatever," and to which that I was going to be like, you know. But none of that happened. Honestly, the only thing that really did happen when I went from being the unapproachable, unobtainable, fully clothed whatever, to showing my amazing tits was was the speed with which the guys were pirating these videos.
Mm.
And I'm talking about sometimes within 10 minutes of me putting online. They were crowdfunding them. Like I was a celebrity who was now doing the thing, right? And so that was probably the only thing that I didn't account for, honestly.
That's interesting.
And in fact, there were entire subreddits devoted to my topless videos. I didn't even know they existed. I was kind of like, do you guys have something better to do? Like, you could just buy the fucking video. And they're like, no, if we all put $20 in, we can all have the video together. I'm like, you guys are
Reddit
just,
is the scum of the earth.
they're just like porn goblins is really what they are. So
Porn goblins is a good way to put it.
I can't imagine making friendships with other dudes on the internet for whom the only thing you really have in common is jerking off over the same person, for whom that you're like trading videos back and forth.
It's very like a homophilial relationship that's, I feel like, not spoken about enough.
Oh,
That
okay. Oh, wait. So you like weird porn
I
stuff, and
do.
also find these things very curious from a anthropological perspective. Did you know there's an entire subreddit? I'll have to send it to you. I have to remember what it's called. In which the guys all will post photos of whatever girl and ask another dude to role play as that girl to get them off.
Oh my God, I love
It's
it.
it's huge. It's a huge subreddit. When I walked into it, because somebody had used one of my photos and was like, "Well, can somebody pretend to be her?" And they're like, "List the activities." And I thought at first I thought, "Oh, wait, are they? Why is somebody using my photos and listing activities? You could just buy those videos with those activities." Oh, and it's literally like the guys will pretend to be the girl and
We're
will
like
like,
lending each other a hand.
right, and they know it's another dude doing it.
I went on a date with this submissive man, and he had actually answered some of the Craigslist ads for like no homo, just hand jobs, and that was his thing. And so he would pretend it was his first time, and he like knew all these other dudes were pretending it was their first time, and he totally like I was picked up off my feet by this story. I was like, oh my God, I'm mesmerized. And so like I like could recognize some of the ads that I used to look at on Craigslist, and he was like, oh yeah, him, that's what this guy is like. And he just eroticized the I guess I hadn't spoken to someone who was like actually actively eroticizing the like deception of pretending
Mm.
like it's totally not gay. It's just my first time. No homo. Just gonna give each other bro hand jobs on the couch.
Wow. I mean, I think we have to deal with a lot of our own internalized issues, but I couldn't imagine internalizing my my sexuality or my conflict with my sexuality so much that like that would be the way that I had to get off on it. Like,
Whew,
hmm,
a lot of
yeah,
work.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
I
I
but I
mean,
love that he eroticized that
I
like
love it.
yeah, and was like really open about it. I was just like, this is amazing. At one point he's like, is this too much detail? I'm like, no.
Nope, nope. Keep going.
More. But it's very interesting. It also kind of reminds me, this is kind of different, but on my like early days on the internet, I would pretend to be a hot young woman, and then
Pretending? How
well,
does
I
that
was
work?
like definitely underage. Um,
Oh, I see.
I was fantasizing about being older, and I was like 18 with like blonde hair and blue eyes because like that's what I was seeing in porn. And then as soon as the guy was about to come, I'd be like, just kidding, I'm an old man in my mom's basement. And I would like shut the computer and like masturbate violently. Masturbate
Oh,
what it was.
love that.
I was like getting off on catfishing people and like controlling their orgasm and like ruined orgasms. And it was just like
I love it.
I never would have had the language to know what the fuck I was doing if it wasn't for this. So thank you, BDSM.
I identify with that so much on so many levels. I think I did some very similar things, but back in the days of bondage.com,
Mm.
like this is, back before FetLife was a thing and like Collar Me had imploded, like that was the place where you got to troll guys. And it was the same way. I used to come in and like pretend to like be, because there's always like male doms, like heavily femme sub sort of thing. And I would come in with these things where like, I was like this cute and young femme sub, and yes, sir, I'll do everything you want. And I'll make all your fantasies come true, blah, 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 blah. And like then somewhere across the course, I'd be like, Oh yeah, absolutely. I am totally a dude in my mom's basement.
Oh my God,
Yes,
really?
yes. If only I'd had the presence to go masturbate violently to that. But I would actively go after the guys who looked like they were the worst of the
Oh,
worst. Yes.
hearing us all say this.
Uh, you know,
Philanthropist status election.
and now we get paid for that kind of stuff, you know? So
Oh my God, I like that you were going after like the alpha to show them that they're not alpha.
I think I was mostly going after guys who were like the just the most misogynistic, like believing in their shtick sort of nonsense of like I don't know. I also at I had a period of my early training where I didn't go through the same kind of leather guard stuff, but I started out, for about a year and a half also being a submissive, mostly because I had like an identity crisis. I started out pretty young too, way younger than I was supposed to have been legally. But no one caught us back then, right? So, uh, and realized that it was just really not for me. And although that kind of brings the next question, or actually next topic is, in addition to this whole femdom fourth wave getting nude is now okay and rah 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 like female empowerment, which we're seeing a lot of.
I like saw you going rah 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 in my head while we were talking about tits.
I've also kind of noticed a little bit of a trend toward DOMs now being open about the fact that you don't necessarily have to be only into being sexually dominant 100% of the time. That it is okay. You can still be a femdom and have, say, I don't know, a desire to be masochistic or like to bottom in a scene or like to do any other things that might be contrary to the very standard male sub archetype of what a femdom should be.
Oh,
And that makes me really happy because that's how most people are. Most people are complex, nuanced creatures who have different ways that their sexuality manifests. And why would we be expected to be only pure,
yeah.
creature who only likes to do the sex the one way?
I do need a biannual beating to like keep me pumped up and like in stasis. Well, the first year was
The
that, and
biannual beating. Did you
then
put it on your calendar that way? Biannual beating.
basically, yeah, that's when I will be contacting protons.
I love it.
Um, but yeah, like I feel like so many of us are switches and to some extent, and like I also think like switches or people who have experienced submission make better DOMs. Just
100%. Yeah.
you can understand what someone's going through a little bit more. I actually have an ad up on a switch website in a submissive session, and it just says like the tribute, like you can't afford this. I'm just like waiting for for the one person who can, and if it's enough, it will
You
be
know,
enjoyable for
I
me.
I,
Like
I would like I agree with that. I think if someone like this is the same way people ask me, like, would you ever escort? And I'm like, I have mad respect props for people who escort, and I think you've also done like sugar babying and stuff like that. I have such mad respect for that, mostly because it feels like way less work than our actual job. Not that it is not also work.
definitely a different way to fill
it's,
time.
it's, it's a different type of work.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel like if I could somehow get past the idea that I might throw up in somebody's mouth if they tried to kiss me and they wanted me to mean it if I really didn't like them, if I could somehow get past that idea, that I would love doing it. I would love the sexual control of it, sort of thing. But oh damn, I lost my train of thought. Oh, but I've also thought like I'm not a masochist. Unfortunately, I'd kind of like to be more of a masochist sometimes because I feel like I'm a little bit of a pussy. Like if somebody like smacks my ass, like and I like really rough sex. Like I'm really into like breath play and choking and stuff. But if somebody like smacks my ass the wrong way, I'm like I'll fucking kill you. um like no, that's not the rough I wanted. I've often thought if somebody paid me enough to do a switch session, how much would it be?
I
And
know
do you
it's
do
hard to
you think do you think they could do it? Like, do you think that they like could come in the room and really have a straight face? Do you think that it could happen? Because I have been in situations where a guy was like, "Yeah, I'm totally going to top you," like in a personal setting, and I will make eye contact for like 20 seconds too long, maybe 2 seconds too long, and they just lose it. They're like, "Okay, guess you're in charge now." And I'm like, "Damn
yeah.
it, that's not what I wanted, though. I wanted just choke me and then dick me down. That's what I want."
You can I will say I've definitely trained my ex to like fuck me like a human fuck machine. And like, it's like there's a hand on the throat because it just fucking feels good.
It
And he's
does.
exactly what he's supposed to. And it's perfect. And I feel like if someone should like would walk in on it and be like, oh, this kind of looks like she's being more submissive until you like hear the words that are spewing from my mouth.
Oh no, of course, and but that's why you're like, no, I want you to do this and this and this, and that's it. Like,
Like, and Hitachi will be here. You'll be right here. This is what I'll be saying. This is what you'll be saying. Great. Good work. Go team go.
and you know you've done it right when you get done and you like have to high five each other. You're like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't quite know what my number is. I like the question is like, what is it worth to you? If you want to dom me, what is it worth to you?
Mm-hmm.
Classically trained as a submissive. I got all my branding words down. Try upping that number a little bit.
I actually think like I don't really have that much experience being a submissive, like at least not since I was like 18, and but I think my experience as a dom, because we just said like people have experience as a submissive obviously are much better at doms. I think the reverse is also true, is that I think I'd be a hell of a pro sub because I know all the right things to say. I would know all the things that I want to hear as a dom, like I would I just think that if my heart really wouldn't be in it unless I somehow really felt compelled for this person, and I have yet to meet that fucking person. One day, maybe, I don't know.
It's a feeling now that would compel me.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I feel like as a woman, the more you come into your sense of personal power, it's not that we get less likely to want to bottom in situations. It's just that we find people for whom bring us a natural desire to have that level of play. We meet less of them because we're like, oh yeah, but I want you to play at my level, like, and I'm already here, so like
Yeah,
you got to meet me here, right?
that's why I hire pro doms. Like, it's the way to go. And plus, because it's like all of the people with the skill sets that I have are my friends. I just want to like go in like not Mistress Blunt drag and just be like, hello, I know nothing.
That's another thing. I'm glad I've noticed that's becoming more normalized for the last year, is that we're talking about pros hiring other pros.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of surprised that that wasn't more prevalent, and maybe it was, we just didn't really talk about it until now. Mostly because what's the group of people who are already sexually open and have pretty good leads on what our sexual desires are and also have disposable income? Why
Yeah.
wouldn't we be hiring each other?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Exactly.
yeah. I really like the idea of and this is, I don't do a lot of Femdom, but I do a lot of like goddessy worship stuff. Is I love the idea that I'm gonna go hire someone and I'm gonna make a slave
Yep.
pay for it, and they know nothing about it. I love like the idea of like
Yeah.
cuckolding someone with another sex worker. Clutch.
So good. I love that. It's funny when I just thought of it now, but I don't know why I didn't think about it when you're painting this amazing bukkake scene. But I've also thought about shooting for kink.com for like a heavy bottoming scene and just be like, you can't even fucking take that. Like, you fucking
Yes, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to do a video where I'm heckling the doms so hard that like one of them's like, "Oh my god, do we have anything we can just shut her up with?" And be like, "No, bitch, you don't. Just watch me." You know?
Actually, I think one of like the hottest things I've ever seen in porn, I think it was Daisy Ducati or Princess Donna, I think. I think it was one of them. But like the sub was scared of the cattle prod and just like took it and shocked their tongue in the middle of a porn scene. She's like, what? And I'm like, oh.
Okay, so one of the ladies in my collective is, and she's actually one of my founding members, is Noel Knight. Before Noel came to Ohio, she actually shot for King.com for Story of O in the first year that it was out, first year or two. And believe it or not, she was listed for years as the one who took the most, and it was taking 50 some odd cattle prod strikes to the pussy from Princess Donna. And I think that she took one to the tongue in one of those early on. And she listened to her talk about it. She's like, yeah. She's like, okay, yeah, you can take it. Okay, you can take it. And I looked her up and I was like, I can take about 25 more. And she goes, can you? And she's like, yeah, right to the pussy. Go ahead, try me. And I watched this video and I was like, girl, you're hardcore. I love it. Do you want to come? Do you want to come be here? Do you want to come get gay here? Because I feel like we could do this, you know?
Yeah, let's do this. Oh my God. Yeah. And I feel like I also, and like, I feel like what we're talking about there is kind of like who has power in these like archetypal plays with power. Like the Dom is supposed to have it all, and the Smith is like, no, take it from me, rather than like, oh, you can take more from me. Like there's like a little bit of pushback of like uh where the power is laying there. And I really love that. And which is also I love playing with switches because or just people who like understand that their submission is not for everyone, like even
Sure.
outside of like play experiences. Like I'd rather dominate someone who like is um and like I really only do dominate people who like understand their power and like how they handle it while they move through the world, because I want to take something away from someone. I don't want to
Sure.
like just take something from someone who
Well,
doesn't feel like they have it.
and like I believe that power, at least as we kind of consider it, is also very nuanced. So I usually like I stopped saying power exchange a long time ago because we're not really talking about power, we're talking about authority. You know what I
Right.
mean? And in that, control and authority and like responsibility are all fluid and they shift throughout, right? And so it becomes a lot of mind fuckery to play with of someone who may spend a lot of time being very high powered and in a lot of a position of authority in the world, and then to come in and have and to it's not that you just take it from them in one single bite, right? Like you're slowly pulling on the threads that like open this tapestry of who they are as a human being, and then when you return them at the end of it, they didn't lose power, right? They lost parts of their ego that were probably holding them back.
Right.
And that to me made being a pro dom so much more valuable, as time went on.
Yeah, and I think it's like breaking someone down to remove obstacles in their path, not necessarily for like total destruction of a of a
Sure.
human. There's an upcharge for that, of course. If you want to actually be destroyed. um,
The destruction is an additional $500 an hour, and then there's like 2 hours of aftercare. And okay,
yeah,
I'll send you the bill. It's right here.
right.
Okay.
It'll pop up on your account, and my financial team will reach out to you.
Please make sure you sign this waiver and right here. Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah, great. I think that's yeah, I think conceptualizing as like and interrogating what is power and what is authority and like what is perceived and like what power do you actually have that you're not realizing is something that I like to play with a lot in scenes, especially when sessioning with cis men.
Hmm. And it's kind of fascinating how, if you're not a cis man, that you go through life understanding how much power you usually don't have.
Yeah.
How much you have to fight for each little thing, and what the I don't know what the fight for recognition looks like. What the fight for authority looks like. What the fight for like just getting the same fair shake, right, looks like. And I think especially most cis hetero white men never really fully understand what they have until you start to remove it from them, right?
Mhm.
Until they're really having to experience that. And this is where, and we talk about like there's a big divide sometimes, or the previous, there was a big divide between the online world and the in-person world, right? And as someone who had to straddle those worlds for so long, I used to listen to people shit on each other on both sides. And the pandemic never made that even better for me because I was watching everybody have to go, oh shit, we have to get along, don't we? We all live together. It's like, yeah, bitches, you're all fucking sluts together. So everybody's got to make nice. But is it seeing how that was a very particular type of play that sometimes was wrapped up inside the bondage or the corporal or this or that or whatever. And really, what it was showing someone what their privilege looked like and then removing that privilege one layer at a time.
Mhm. That's what makes a hot scene, I think.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I wish I would give an upcharge for like dismantling white male privilege. Like I'd put it there as like a menu item, but I don't think very many of them would actually order it the way that they think they're ordering it. Maybe dismantling white male privilege is my discount code.
Which is actually an Upchurch.
Exactly.
I love that. You were saying something, and maybe while we wrap up the conversation, we can end on this. You were saying about a new porn endeavor, I believe.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I will be the first one to tell you that I am almost to, hold on, I'm going to pull up my inventory spreadsheet. I'm going to tell you that I am currently at 2,700 videos that I've made just for the Goddess Alexandra Snow brand, not for my original one that's Vicious Beauty. So let me tell you what, I'm bored. I'm real bored. I get to do some cool stuff, but honestly, I'm really, really bored of just talking to the camera. I really enjoy getting to actually do stuff with actual people, and we've been planning this for a little while. If I'm not really going to retire, but I am going to start phasing out a POV. And the problem is like much as everyone else has figured out in the pandemic, is that once you're kind of dependent on one type or one stream of income, it becomes difficult to reestablish yourself in another one enough that you can say goodbye to that other one, right? So we've been putting money aside for the capital for this new project, and we're almost getting ready to start. And our new porn project is going to be porn that is made by women for everyone, not just cis white men. Cis straight hetero porn consumption, which is kind of how porn has been made, for so long. Not that there have been outliers, there have been great projects, and there's been some really cool people out there doing it, but as a whole, porn is still marketed and expressly designed to be consumed by this one crowd, and we want to make it so it's just porn for everybody. But the thing that's magical in that is that we want to do porn storytelling. So we want to make super cinematic, story focused videos and audio and writing. We're going to try to do the whole gamut, and really start to look at fantasies from a different concept. And I will, at least for a while, still maintain a pretty prominent role in it, mostly because I have to leverage my brand to make that project go.
Right.
But we're going to shoot with anybody and everybody who wants to be involved. I'm hoping to be able to, yes, if you want to come out, yeah, you want to come out and do cool stuff. And what I really want to do is I want to take individuals and be like, let's talk about fantasies that you have, that are your core fantasies, and I want to try to build a movie around it, and the idea is that there are people who've done some really good cinematic porn, but it still tends to be fairly hetero focused, is that I want to take it so that we go after the story, the situation. Like I want to build drama. I want to build drama the way that you build it in a movie, and there just happens to be sex and stuff inside it, and really get into the meat of a fantasy. And so that's what I'm really excited to do.
That sounds so fun. And I feel like so much of what we do in a session is building that fantasy for someone, that being able to like capture that kind of like story making ability in film will be really fun to get.
And that's kind of the other part of it, is like I think sometimes we as performers or as models, maybe not necessarily you and I, who have a lot more control over the stuff that we make, and it kind of had said, fuck you, I don't care, to anybody who didn't want to buy things that we weren't into. But I think a lot of models probably don't get the opportunity to make things they would get off to necessarily. And I'd love to be able to give that experience to someone. Like, no, come in, we'll take your fantasy, let's build it into something that we think can be sold, and then let me find the people, let me make the scene, I'm going to cater to you as the performer, and because then they're going to be authentic in it, and it's a lot more fun. Like, it's just fun to give somebody that experience, and if you can also make money doing it, it's like a home run.
Totally. I love that. Well, I can't wait to watch, or maybe come for a trip to Ohio.
Yes, yeah. We'll also be traveling too. It's the difference is we're in a production environment where it's like everything hinges on me, and now we're going to be in a more traditional production environment where we're bringing talent in and like doing several days worth of filming and doing all that stuff. So it's it takes a little bit of rearranging.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool. And where can people find you?
So the best way to obtain all of my stuff is actually alexandrasnow.com is my portal site, and it has links to everything from in-person sessions to getting to get to my OnlyFans. My membership site is goddesssnow.com, and that has the lion's share of my content. But alexandersnow.com has links to my video stores, to my website, to my fan clubs, my social media, all that stuff in one-stop shop.
Awesome.
Yep.
And folks can find me at mistressblunt.com or Mistress Blunt on Twitter and Instagram until I get deleted.
It's playing Russian roulette every time you make a post, isn't it? You're like,
It
it's
really
today
is.
the day, today the day.
And then you have one starting to do really well, and then it's goodbye. Just take you right
Yeah.
out. Well, awesome. Well, it was so lovely to chat with you.
Yes.